This is Just Zach and Spirit Show.
So one of the key chapters I really liked in Andrew's book was the one about using fruits such as banana as a data visualization. That's something I think you're quite well known for, right?
Well, I'm trying to use it as a way to make something more memorable, essentially. Because I use the banana analogy, or the shape that a banana has, to help people remind them of what I consider to be one of the most fundamental things in buyer behavior. The fact that there's obviously a lot of people that do very little, and there's a few who do a lot. And if you plot a graph, you obviously get a graph with a line in it that is sort of shaped like a banana. On the left side, it's high, and then it just goes down to the bottom right. And it's a negative binomial distribution, if you want to use the correct statistical name. But I don't know. After 60 years, people have a hard time remembering that name, oddly enough. And maybe it's just because it's 3 words, or it's just something people don't come across very often. So I started thinking about something that people would come across quite frequently. And, bananas are almost some of the most frequently purchased items in any supermarket. People go to supermarkets quite often. You can spot them quite easily. They're yellow, and everybody knows them. And so I thought, well, why not sort of use that thing as as I say, it's a way of helping people remind them of something. And I think the danger can be that it's going to be seen as sort of as a gimmicky thing, which is clearly not intended as such. So I think I'm personally quite careful with it not turning into something like that, because some people already calling me the banana man. Which, it's amusing in one way, but I think for me personally, it's really about I don't know, sort of you're not creating a distinctive asset for the thing, but it's really just you're trying to make it more memorable, easy to remember for people. So about what was that thing about people's buying behavior? Banana.
That banana principle.
Yeah, exactly. So I sort of really try to not turn it into sort of a circus when I talk about it or when I use it. So, because the thing I've noticed, but this is really sort of what for me, how it works for me personally, is when I use it as an analogy or as a thing in working with clients. It works because you're not making too much fun about the thing, but it helps because you can just talk about, because it's also, as a word, it's a shorter word. You can talk about, are we focusing on the right side or the left side of the banana? As in, are we focusing too much on few people that do a lot, or are we indeed putting a lot of our time and effort in reaching the large group of people that do a little, sort of left side or right side of the banana? So it's sort of, as a conversation thing, it helps the conversation, but it's really important to that it's not, it doesn't turn into some sort of comical thing, but it's an enabler of having conversations, being more productive, to the point, things like that.
It's funny you should mention Banana Man, because when I was growing up I grew up in Australia, there was a cartoon called Banana Man, and his arch nemesis was actually Apple Man or something like that. I'll see if I can find you a clip on YouTube and send it to you a bit later. And,
all right, I will. Thanks.
I think it comes with a catchy little intro and everything.
Well, yeah. Well, to be honest, I think this is. I'll definitely look at it. So I appreciate that. I think, but it is exactly the sort of thing I think you need to be. I personally want to be a bit careful with, in terms of, because if it's just going to be the thing that people, if it's just, it's going to be. If people just remind it more as that's the thing that made us laugh, or people are reminded for I would say the wrong reasons, then it's obviously it loses its sort of power to, as I say, to have more, let's say, more productive or focused conversations with what's really important in terms of what should we be focusing on and what shouldn't we be doing. But I'll look it up because, as you say, sometimes it could be sort of interesting little ways into something, but it is something where I'm a bit careful. I try to be careful about it, and at one point you just need to think of something else again. But anyway, it does come down. Goes back to what we were discussing earlier about, can you find ways to communicate more simply, more effectively about things that are very likely quite complex? So can you make those things more simple? Can you more easily engage people to think about and talk about it? And I think that is something I think anyone, but maybe even particularly scientists, maybe should think about a lot, because they typically they do things that are typically quite complex or hard to understand. So anything that we can do to make it to be adopted more easily or accepted or more easily is a worthwhile effort.
I think the negative binomial distribution's sort of one of the fundamental patterns of consumer behavior. Like, it kind of really outlines that for any category or any brand for that matter, that, you have a lot of people who in a given period of time, say 12 months, just simply aren't buying. And of those that do buy you don't have this extraordinarily large amount of super heavy loyal consumers. In fact, most people are buying you, once or twice in that period of time. And it really sets up the rest of how we know consumers behave just from that one analysis. And that's why it's sort of one of my more sort of favorite analyses from that sort of group there that we kind of refer to as the laws of growth. I agree. I think in any way that, whether it is the banana shape or, any other way that people are trying to disseminate this knowledge and to try to make it memorable is, I think, quite a worthwhile, pursuit, because of how important that fundamental principle actually is. So if people think like it's a little bit gimmicky or whatever, they're probably not thinking it for very long, because, people don't think about other things besides what they're doing in their lives all that often. But if it helps them remember, I'm sitting in a meeting and it's 3 months down the track and we've just had a presentation from Wiemer, or we've just had a presentation from, Byron or something like that. Are we going to try to have a marketing strategy that's aimed at trying to get more people to buy us once or twice? Or are we going to try to get people who are buying us, 10 times to buy us 11, 12, 13 times? And so, I think in any way you can get people to remember it and to make well-informed, evidence-based decisions is definitely something that should be occurring.